It's out today. It's the book with a fabulous title, Family and Other Catastrophes by Alexandra Borowitz. It is out today. I'm thrilled to have her on the phone. Alexandra has been writing since she was 6, which is a really good time to start. And her family and friends, what else are they good for? They provide endless inspiration. She was raised in New York, where all great people are raised, and spent her first years out of college in San Francisco working at advertising startups. This is your first novel. There is nothing like a debut novel. Welcome to Reading with Robin, Alexandra.
Thank you so much.
You had me at the title, honestly. I received this from your publicist, and I thought, wow. I mean, this is like my kind of book. Laugh out loud funny, sort of Tropper-esque. Reminded me a little bit of, that was the first thing that came to mind while I was reading Jonathan Tropper. And
compliment, by the way. I really appreciate that.
Oh, that was the first. This is where I leave you. It was sort of this, when a story sort of takes place in that time period with a family that's kind of relatable in that way. That's one of my favorite analogies and a favorite book. And you have Grant Ginder's quote, and we are just huge Grant Ginder fans.
I am too. Not to gush about everyone you mentioned, but I love Grant Ginder. I've actually started, we know each other now ever since he gave me that blurb. And he's also just a hilarious person. He's super talented. He's super smart.
I love him. The people we hate at the wedding, because we've interviewed, and so Reading with Robin listeners will recognize his name. And what Grant says is Family and Other Catastrophes is hands down one of the funniest novels I've read this year. Then he goes on, and when funny people find your work funny, it's awesome, right?
Oh, of course. It's the greatest honor.
So I was really excited to see his blurb. And what was the process like of, you're a writer, you've been writing since you were 6, not this story necessarily, but you've been storing it up. When did you say to yourself, okay, it's time to write this book?
Oh, wow, that's such a good question. So I was always writing, obviously, like I said, and actually I put in 6 because that's when I started writing with words. But once I realized that, people were writing and transcribing words, I would scribble pretending to be writing. I was about 3 or 4, and I would just sat for, a really long time, even though it was scribbled. And then eventually I started learning some words, like my name, but, I didn't know the word for house. So if I wanted to say, that I go to the house, I would draw a tiny little house. Kind of like little characters, so to speak. And so obviously, fast forward quite a few years, I was always writing something, but I didn't start writing anything funny until I was in high school because I started reading a lot of David Sedaris.
Yeah,
so I started writing things about my own life. But, when you're in high school, you think you matter so much, and, not everyone cares, or actually nobody cares about my time at theater camp. That, no one wants to read that. And I would write them so seriously, everyone needs to know about this. And so that was what I did in high school. I never thought that I would write a comedic fiction novel, though. I have to say, I never thought that would be what I wound up writing. I was either writing super serious stuff that was, borderline pretentious, or I was funny stuff about myself in, very short form. And then in college, I really didn't write at all. I was kind of just distracted with other stuff and just not really feeling it, not feeling particularly confident. So then I would say my early 20s, I started wanting to write something in a novel form. And I was like, I wrote funny stuff before. It just wasn't in that form. Why couldn't I do that? And I think about an idea that I had when I was in high school, but I never even, did anything with it, which is that I wanted to write a book about a dysfunctional family, but they were going to be reuniting for Christmas. And I was like, yeah, it's not a Christmas story. That makes it kind of sweet, and I want it to be just, a little darker than that. And
so why not pick a wedding?
Exactly.
The darkest of all holidays, the wedding.
So, yeah, basically. But then I also, after living in San Francisco for a few years, I really wanted to write a book about a wedding with a lot of people from San Francisco, a group of friends reuniting for this wedding, and then all sleeping with each other in various combinations. But that didn't really have, a plot. Neither story had a plot, to be honest. And I was like, either one of these stories can hold its own. I think I need to combine them. So I did. And it helped that I had just gotten married when I was writing it. So even though nobody in the book is, straight up based on any family members, I had to get that out of the way because I know people laugh. it was based on, like, just the stress that you experience and the excitement and the little things about, like, you know, you will argue with your mother about the centerpieces after she says, oh, it doesn't matter, I just want you to be happy. And then suddenly it's like, but all my friends are going to be there. You know?
And if you could be happy at the same time as my friends are impressed with the floral arrangements, it's a good thing.
Mother in the story is not based on her, but she and I definitely had times where she would start off by saying, this is your day, this is about you, I don't care what you do, like I don't care. And then it would be something like the salmon, like, didn't have dill on it. And then it would be like a thing. That's a big example. But, like, little things. And then we both just go together. Yeah. Well, I was just as guilty as she was.
And that's what happens. I mean, when it's sort of a high-stress, high-stakes time and the family's thrown together, I mean, hilarity and all sorts of other stuff will come up. And so you've thrown your characters into this situation. Like I said, just even beginning with the title, Family and Other Catastrophes. So there. And writing humor is really hard. I mean, you certainly come from humor royalty. So is it, you know, genetic? You grow up around it. But I find myself, when I'm reading this book, when I read the book, I'm laughing out loud. And that doesn't happen a lot. I can really think about a few recent books that happened with, but it's not often where someone will say, what are you reading? Read that part. Why are you laughing? You know, because it's just hard to write comedy in a novel, and then, you know, you're not just like, you know, I was like really, like, it was just so outrageously funny to me. And I'm talking, I should remind people who's on the phone here, it is Pub Day for Family and Other Catastrophes. My guest is Alexandra Borowitz. You can find her at her website, Alexandra Borowitz, or if you're looking for her like I was before, you can tweet at her, go to her Facebook page. What did I do? Trying to connect and find her there, and you can find out more information about the book, and it is out now, and it's just, I mean, so you've got all of these characters, and you've put them through some really interesting situations, and some old memories come up, old acquaintances, a therapist from when she was younger at her the week of her wedding. What did you do to your characters? What did you not do to these characters?
Yeah, I mean, they went through a lot for sure. I tried not. There were like a few times in the rewrites where I was like, I'm just being way too mean to this character, or a lot of times I was like, this character's being too crazy. Like nobody in the world would ever say that.
It's funny to me. I was just, you know, it was over the top, but like certain, like Lauren, Emily's sister Lauren, was so funny to me because it was just sort of every imaginable PC correct way of putting everything, and just like but I know people like this, so I thought it was funny.
Well, right. I mean, I guess
it's true.
It's not really that crazy. I think Lauren, when I first wrote it, she seemed really crazy, and now I'm like, there are people who really say those things.
Oh yeah.
What I find funny about Lauren isn't that she's super politically correct, because I'm all for political correctness, but that she like makes it all about her. Like, you know, she just irrelevantly brings it to some social issue just so the spotlight can be on her. And that's like the one thing that everyone in the family has in common, even like Emily and even the father, who's actually kind of a wallflower, is like they will irrelevantly bring the topic back so that they can be the center of attention all the time. Everyone in the family does it. So that's
a little bit of narcissism in this family, right? Just a little.
Well, everyone's a bit narcissistic. And I love, I mean, not to toot my own horn, I guess I'm a bit of a narcissist too, but when Marla says in one scene, she's like, it just so happens that many people in our family are clinical narcissists, because everyone loves to diagnose their own family members as narcissists.
Of course they do.
Like, oh, my parents were narcissists and my siblings are all narcissists, but I'm okay. I'm the only normal one. So that's kind of what everyone in the family does.
It's very funny. In fact, my favorite line from the book, which I wrote down here, Marla, who's the mother, we don't ever give away spoilers on the book, but the mother of the bride is Marla, and she's a psychologist and puts her kids through therapy the week of Emily's wedding. And Marla says something about punishing her for being born into a family of narcissists. And like that was my favorite line in the book. Because she has nobody to invite, because she's not talking to anybody in the family because, well, they're all narcissists. And it's always entertaining to me when it's somebody in that field who is sharing it in this way and sees nothing wrong with a little family therapy. And talk about their brother, Jason.
Oh, well, he was super fun to write. So Jason is a recently divorced sort of pickup artist. I guess aspiring pickup artist would be like closer to what he is. And he can get with women, but the women that he claims he has a chance with are not the women he actually picks up. Like, he picks up women who are very drunk and desperate, and maybe like they've already had a few drinks before they see him, so he seems a lot more attractive. And the worst person in Jason's world is his ex-wife. And the worst thing she did to him was divorcing him when he cheated on her. That's the horrible thing she did to him. Mm-hmm. And he calls her Satan. He like doesn't want her to be around. Like, he thinks she's so terrible. And he, like everyone else in the family, is very self-obsessed. He will turn anyone's event into a way to try to find women, and he probably wouldn't use the word women if I were speaking in his voice.
Right.
Which I should point out that I have spoken in Jason's voice before, because one of the ways that and you're the first person I told this to, actually, but one of the ways that I research my characters is I'll like post as them on an internet forum.
Oh, I love that.
I will do that. And I have rules of etiquette. Like, I'm not a troll. Like, I'm not going to, like, harass anyone. I'm not going to say anything that's going to hurt anyone.
Right.
But I like to sort of see, like, who really gets people going. Like, who do people want to read about? And
so it's research. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when he posted his thing, it was like he was trying to pick up his friend's daughter. That's what the post was. He was like getting tips for how to pick up his friend's daughter, and she was over 18.
Right,
Don't worry. But it was still just like, oh, it was so cringe. Like, dude, you don't have a chance. It's so pathetic. And I realized people just had so much fun making fun of this, and I was like, oh my gosh, people find this funny. So like, I'll go with it.
I think that's hilarious. That's very clever, in fact. And and you'll just go so far. I do. I think it's. I think that's one of the reasons why I found the book so funny, and the characters innately endearing, even though, there are all of these things, because they're likable people, and they're just thrown into these circumstances, and the family secrets. So how do family secrets sort of, without giving away anything,
right?
How do you write that in without divulging too much, or having it be just enough of a, to keep the story moving, bringing it all together, and why there are these family secrets, which all families have. And whenever that topic comes up, that's the question, well, what are ours? Well, then they wouldn't be a secret with. That's the tricky part.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I'm going to try not to give away anything, but if I accidentally do, feel free to cut it. But basically, there was a scene in the original rough draft which, like, I could not thank my family, my friends, and of course my editing team more. I cannot thank them enough for all the help that they gave me in terms of taking my rough draft to what it is today. But in the rough draft version, there was a scene where a family secret, or the main one, I suppose, is divulged in a scene where someone literally overhears someone else talking about it in very plain English, like really expositorily. And I cringed thinking that I ever wrote that, because I'm like, that would never, like, why would anyone do that? And so it took me a while to get to the point where that secret was, like, gradually unraveled, as opposed to, like, you're walking by a door with, like, a glass to the door, and, like, you hear people telling you everything you need to know.
Wow. But that is part of the process, and that you have such a great team, and that, you start with that, and it then goes to what you see, how it unravels in the story.
I think my biggest weakness is, like, I'm not very subtle, so I feel like everyone who helps me edit, like, including the great people at Mira and also my family and friends, really helps me master the art of subtlety when they're like, okay, a little on the nose, might want to back it up a bit. That's how that scene went originally, and I just learned so much as a writer, which I hope I can bring to future projects about, like, show not tell, like, keep it a little subtle.
It's really interesting because you know what's going to happen as the author. So to break it out in parts, and that to me is always the part of a book, because I don't try and, I'm not reading the book trying to figure it out, or what's the secret, or what's the reveal. I just want to enjoy the ride. When it's done well, you're as surprised as the writer as the reader is, I guess, at the same time. It's just all very interesting to me, the way it all comes together, and how much, for people who are listening to know how much goes into getting this book the way we see it. So many drafts and so much writing. What was it like when the box arrived with the finished books for you?
Oh, that was really crazy, because being published has always been basically, I don't know, my life dream or my life goal. I mean, I have like a few of them. And I guess to tack it on to that, I was always like, wouldn't it be cool if that happened before I was 30?
Well, there you go.
But I wasn't going to like make that a deadline because I'm like, well, that's arbitrary. But I was really happy that it happened before I was 30. I should point out that I wrote the book when I was 25, because that's how old I was when I got married. So I wrote the book when I was 25, but the editing process and like the publication process and just all of that takes quite a while.
Sure.
And also, like, I didn't know that it would necessarily get published when I wrote it. So I was super excited when I saw it. I mean,
wow.
I think I don't know the exact names of the people, but whoever put together the cover did a really great job. As a side note, yellow is my favorite color. I was like, how did they know?
Isn't that cool when that happens? Because, there are so many decisions that go into that. And then when you see it and you think, oh, this is just right, it's a really cool thing. And the house is upside down. It's a lot of fun. And I'm talking with Alexandra Borowitz. Her brand new novel hits the shelves, Family and Other Catastrophes. You can visit her website, alexandraborowitz.com. And as a family member and in a writing family, is there anything that's ever off limits? I feel like I'm asking the Nora Ephron question. Is everything copy? I mean, anything off limits? Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously my dad is very well known, but both of my parents are really funny writers. And I think that when I was little, I don't want to get either of them in trouble in case they don't really think. They kind of had this idea that, like, if it's funny, it's okay, as long as I wasn't hurting anyone or, like, majorly breaking the rules. So what comes to mind is that when I was in third grade, I really sucked at playing the recorder because I knew that, like, that nobody cares. Like, no one wants to hear, even a well-played recorder by an 8-year-old is terrible. And, like, when I have kids, like, I don't know how I'm going to pretend to be enthusicask about that.
You're not. That's when the piano arrives. Yeah, that's when you.
Hot Cross Buns is terrible.
Yes.
It's the worst. And I didn't want to do it, and I really sucked at it. And my course teacher, or my music teacher, I guess, took her job like super seriously. And she was like, if you don't learn how to play the recorder, I'm not going to cut you from the concert, but you're going to stand up there with all the other kids, and you're not going to be allowed to play.
What is the matter with these teachers?
Little girl. She said, and everyone's going to be looking at that little girl wondering, why isn't she playing? And I'm like, that's weird. Like, what? Who cares? And so I came home, and I was in tears, and I said to my parents, like, Mrs. H isn't going to let me play in the concert. It's going to be so embarrassing. And I think my dad said, well, why don't you just pretend to play while you're up there? It's not like they're going to drag you off stage.
That was really,
like,
that's great advice.
Like, they can't force me to not do anything. So I did exactly what he suggested, but because I didn't know Hot Cross Buns, because I had not practiced it, I kind of wound up doing like a Kenny G-esque like solo. I was like theatrically waving my recorder around, like playing a million notes at once. And I think there's a lot of parents out there that would have been kind of embarrassed that their kids did that, but my parents thought it was so funny. I never got in trouble for it. So I think that's the level of like everything's okay. I think, we're not a family that we're not okay with racial slurs. There's a lot that we like don't go near.
Right.
Little things like that, it's like if it's funny, it's okay.
Fucking fun.
It's not horrible,
Right. Not mean. Yeah, we draw the line at mean-spirited, and I think, but it's amazing, like that a teacher would say that to a child. With all we know about, I mean, some of them are the biggest bullies. Like, how do you tell that to a little 8-year-old?
Sarah Silverman had I was watching her Netflix.
She's so funny.
She was talking about some teacher she had that, like, screamed at her when she was 10. And she was like, when I was 10, I didn't have the insight to think, he's probably going through something right now. and when she said that, I just thought that was so funny. Cause, like,
they're people, too.
I have friends who are teachers, and I'm like, they could be having a terrible day, and they could really take it out on a kid. Who knows?
Yeah.
But at the time, I just thought, like, wow, I'm terrible.
Well, I'm glad that you've gotten past that, and your children will never play the recorder. I can vouch for the fact that, and that's when we were kids and the first instrument presented was the violin, that's the day the piano arrived, because there was no way they were listening to an 8-year-old, learn how to play the violin. And this has been so much fun. I could go on and on, but the book is hilarious. It is it's heartfelt, it's smart, it's funny, and it's very clever, and I'm very excited to share it with the Reading with Robin audience. It's Family and Other Catastrophes, brand new, out. Visit Alexandra's site at alexandraborowitz.com. Find it on Reading with Robin, and I am looking forward to whatever comes next. Please keep in touch. This is a lot of fun.
Thank you so much.